Well, once again, thank you all for being here with us. Eric Gibbons is back with us today. We've been calling it Thursdays with Eric, and we love these sessions. Some of us were talking earlier about some earlier sessions and the way we've been using them already. So that's really exciting. Glad you're here, and we're going to get started. We're still talking about If Picasso stuff, which I'm really interested in that. And hopefully you got emails and information on the agenda about some things, like if you want to write or draw today, some things to have on hand. Also, please remember to fill out your evaluation forms. And if you missed one along the way, remember you can always go back and find those on the Renaissance calendar. On the far right-hand side, we have all the evaluation links. And this is kind of cropping up. Maybe you accidentally filled out the wrong one. Maybe you did it twice or something. Just make sure you do the right one, and I'll count it correctly. Okay. All right. So that's just a little housekeeping. Eric, thank you so much for being back with us today. I'm glad you got to enjoy your spring break, and now we're back at it. So I'm just going to turn it over to you. Not as much of an introduction today, but we kind of know you at this point.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I'm glad to have you guys joining us again for our last of 4 meetings, I guess. So I thought I would take this time to kind of share a little bit of my journey before we get into it, because it kind of makes sense of how I kind of got here. And I wanted to end with this If Picasso thing, because it pulls together so many other things that we've talked about, whether it was literacy or the emotional color wheel or the importance of art education. It kind of culminates in this ongoing project. So, as a art teacher, I also had this side of myself where I was also an artist, still am, an artist. And before the housing crash, I was getting, I do these figurative paintings. I think I shared one before, where they're kind of neoclassical paintings that were inspired by a trip that I had to Paris. And I used to work very pop art and then sort of switched to this style. And it was sort of getting some nice attention. I was getting shows across the country. And then the housing market crash happened in 2008. And people were losing their homes, so they weren't buying art. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do now? Because I was all set, in that. I even got a piece in the Obama White House that I was really proud of. And I got a nice letter from Obama about that. But, things change. And I was thinking, well, where am I going next? And I'd always had these ideas for books on the back burner, but because I was spending so much time doing these very detailed paintings for exhibitions across the country, it's just sort of on the back burner. And I thought, well, let's put it on the front burner. So the first book that I did that kind of grabbed some attention was this art students workbook. And we're phasing this one out for another one that's called the workbook for art students. There's this glitch in the matrix about books that if you want to add 20% more to it, you got to change the title. So, but this was essentially just all my handouts and assessments and all the stuff that I was doing in my classroom. And I started sharing with professional development in my state of New Jersey and then the national one, and people were interested in what I was doing and how I was doing it. So I finally pulled it together in this book. And I tried getting it to Scholastic and Davis Publications, who do school arts magazines, and they were all like, a workbook for art? It doesn't make sense. Like, nobody kind of got it. But once I went to these workshops and was doing PD and was sharing them, people were like scooping them up. So I knew I was offering something that people just didn't recognize was sort of not necessarily needed, but people appreciated it and they found, some help with that. But I'd always had this idea of a children's book that I wanted to do that was kind of connecting art and literature and art history to get kids to kind of understand it, because I know when I teach it in my classroom, the kids are just, in awe of it. They want to emulate stuff. They want to kind of have some fun with it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do a book on this, and I wanted to do emulations. And the theme that I had in my head for creating this first children's book was, tying it to Christmas. I thought that was a pretty broad, theme. And I had done some little Christmas trees in the styles of different artists. And I thought, okay, this might be something. So I started painting and drawing and doing a bunch. And I think I got 10 of them. And I realized this book is going to take me years to do. So I was in my Facebook art teachers group. I think it's got like 20,000 members now. And I just posted something to see, who else would be interested. And we got a lot of response, and 35 teachers signed on, and each art teacher took an artist from history and they created an emulation of a Christmas tree in the style of that particular artist. And it wasn't, like Christmas in the religious sense. It was really just the shape of the tree, the triangle with a little trunk underneath it, and how different artists might interpret that. And then I was, decent at writing, and I thought, okay, I'm going to write some poems that will teach about the artist, the style, through this method. So that became the first book, which was If Picasso Had a Christmas Tree. And I'm going to share a little bit with you on that. And when we uploaded it to Amazon, we got this little, I don't know if you can see that there, but we got Amazon editors' favorite books of 2014. So that was really kind of cool. So I'm going to share with you that, and then I'm going to go from there. So I've got a few of the poems and a few of the artworks that I put into a video for you to see. So let me, we got to do this again. All right, share screen, share, okay. Share sound. Okay, I figured it out on my own. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Eric Gibbons, and I'm the author of If Picasso Had a Christmas Tree. This is the first book in my series of If Picasso books that focus on, well, Christmas trees, animals, underwater creatures, and then another one on geography and languages. You can see the playlist for this video and see some more information, and I put some stuff in the description, like where you can get this book if you'd like on Amazon or firehousepublications.com. I'm an art teacher, and I worked with 30 other art teachers to create this book. The image on the cover is actually mine, but I had each teacher pick a famous artist throughout history and do a Christmas tree in the style of that artist. We approached this in a very secular sort of way, looking at a Christmas tree as a triangle with a square underneath it. So it's more of a design idea than it is something about, the religious aspect of the holiday. So I'm going to read you these poems, and they're kind of taken off after 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. That's the rhyming meter that I used in these poems. And I'm hoping to teach a little bit about each artist as we go through these. I'm going to share 8 with them for you today, but I have many, many more in this book. If Pablo Picasso had a Christmas tree, are these the colors and shapes you'd see? Pablo loved paint, and he loved to draw. Made art from all things, all that he saw. He drew and used shapes you see everywhere, the triangle, the circle, and even the square. Could this be his? It's bright and it's green, with a candle in front of this holiday scene. He painted with patterns and drew in with lines. His name is remembered for all future times. So we can see lots of hallmarks of Picasso's style in this, and maybe your teacher can show you some examples of other Picasso paintings. This next one is actually a sculpture by a friend of mine. His name is Colin Temple, and he's also an art teacher, and he did a Christmas tree in the style of Louise Nevelson. If Louise Nevelson had a Christmas tree, are these the colors and shapes you'd see? She liked to make sculptures from all kinds of wood gathered from streets in the neighborhood. Some called it trash, some called it art. She collected things and pulled them apart. She'd reorganize them in ways that she liked, gluing and nailing them, painting them white. Sometimes she wanted to paint them all black. She did what she wanted, and that was a fact. Our next one is in the style of Cy Twombly. It's another painting that I did for the book. If Cy Twombly had a Christmas tree, are these the colors and shapes you'd see? Cy, an old man who drew like a kid, with smears and with scribbles and scratches he did. If you look real close, you might find a tree. That smear in the middle, is that what you see? Sometimes he drew big as a house, with lines and scribbles as small as a mouse. Cy was a man with a child inside. Take it from him and scribble with pride. Here's another one that I did in the style of Tamara de Lempicka. She's a famous artist from the Art Deco style in the early 1920s, 1930s. If Tamara de Lempicka had a Christmas tree, are these the colors and shapes you'd see? She painted so smoothly in all of her shapes. She liked to paint girls, never some grapes. Some would play music while others held a flower, all of them strong, none of them sour. It was hard for a woman in Lempicka's day to get her art noticed somehow and some way. Now her work sells for millions of dollars, hailed as a hero by artists and scholars. This one is in the style of Grandma Moses. If Grandma Moses had a Christmas tree, are these the colors and shapes you'd see? I bet you'd not seen a red checkered house colored in squares like an old country blouse. She did not start painting till 73, but the works that she did were just heavenly. You're never too old to start something new, and you're never too young. That also is true. She painted because it was so much fun and lived to be 101. The next one is in the style of Mark Rothko. If Mark Rothko had a Christmas tree, are these the colors and shapes you'd see? He liked to paint pictures with big blurry shapes, stacked and then layered like sweet painted cakes. The outlines he made were so very blurry. Why was this artist in such a great hurry? He didn't have time to sit and paint neat. Maybe he never felt good in his seat. But Rothko, the artist, to paint in this way, to him was a kind of grown-up art play. This next one is was painted by Shannon Kiernan Goffin, and she's also an art teacher. And she did this one in the style of Frida Kahlo. If Frida Kahlo had a Christmas tree, are these the colors and shapes you'd see? Mexico was the land of her birth. Her art was so famous all over the earth. She liked to paint dreams and painting her thoughts. Some were unusual, some were a lot. She painted herself both happy and sad. She painted her feelings, all that she had. Here she's half deer with horns on her head, next to a tree decorated in red. Our last one is by Donna Cooper Smith, and she did it in the style of Vincent van Gogh and is painting Starry Night. If Vincent van Gogh had a Christmas tree, are these the colors and shapes you'd see? Swirls in the sky of stars up in space, making this painting a beautiful place. The stars wrap the tree in holiday light, making it colorful all through the night. Though Vincent was troubled all through his life, his artwork helped him handle his strife. So if you feel sad, lonely, or blue, painting is something you always can do. So again, there are many more artists kind of covered in this book, some that are more abstract. We have collage, very modern sorts of pieces, things.
Okay, we'll stop there. Cool. So that was the first one, and actually it predates the other one that I had showed you, but it was one that took me so long that I started it in 2009 and we didn't get it published until 2014. And I was really excited about it because I was, making these connections with art history, the style, helping students kind of understand, or helping children. It really wasn't meant for students. It was really meant for children to help them kind of understand, the different styles. So we can take an object and see how it might look through the eyes of another artist. And when I was sharing this with other people, just in general, they really loved it. And I got, like I said, we got that award on Amazon for it. But then when I shared it with art teachers, it was interesting because I had written it initially for children in general. And when I was sharing it with them, they're like, but I can't teach this in my classroom. And I'm like, well, that wasn't my intent. It was just going to be a children's book. But then I kept hearing this from them. I'm like, but don't you want it for yourself? To give it to, your children or friends or something like that. That's what was going on in my head. And I hadn't made the connection that, this could be a teaching tool, if we made, some changes to it. So that's what sort of spurred on what became a series, because at first it was just a one-off book. I was going to, do this and get it out of my head because I get an idea and it's like my own ADD usually makes it difficult for me to finish a project. But I was so proud that I finally, finished it, got it done. But at first I was a little annoyed at these art teachers, and then I realized, well, wait a minute, maybe we can do something that could be in a classroom. And that's what turned it into a series. So the trick for me was how to find a subject that would connect with children, and then also make it something that I could use in a classroom that would have educational value in the way that I see art education. We talked about in that our first meeting, the literacy connections, the connections to other curriculum content areas and stuff. And the first one that comes to my mind was animals. Kids love animals. We have dogs already on the screen, so people love animals. So I thought that would be where I would go first. So that's what generated the idea for If Picasso Went to the Zoo. And again, I put a call out to the artists who had participated. We got many more because now the first book was out, and then we could get other people to do it. And as people were picking, they had to pick an alliterative animal. And that was another thing I wanted to insert into the book. So for me, it was the Picasso polar bears. So we had PP, or a Liechtenstein leopard. So they were able to pick. So we had a Google Doc, and people could type in the name of the artist and the name of the animal, so people could pick them right away. But I also put a challenge out there that we wanted to make sure, just like in my first book, that we were representing both male and female artists. So it wasn't just a book of dead white guys. We wanted to make sure that it was, representing both, but also to be multicultural if we could. And I was very thoughtful about that with the Christmas book. The ones that maybe I showed they were pretty balanced. But if you read the book, there's a lot more, balance in there. African American artists, Native American artists, all that kind of stuff. So we were very thoughtful about that part of it. So I'm going to share with you the next video, the If Picasso Went to the Zoo. But while we were doing that book, we realized we needed to make a decision, because some people were like, well, I want to do a porpoise, or I want to do a dolphin. A lot of people wanted to do dolphins. I'm like, well, do we do this as land animals, or, do we just any animal? And then we made the decision as a group that we were going to do land animals for this book, but it also meant that we already knew what the second book was going to be, sea creatures. Okay, so that's how the series sort of built. So I'm going to share with you the video of the zoo stuff, and then we'll talk about these connections that can be made. So let me share again. Okay, so zoo.
Hello, my name is Eric Gibbons, and I'm an artist, teacher, and an author. And I wrote this book, If Picasso Went to the Zoo. It's about animals and artists throughout history. And I use a little trick called alliteration, where the letter of the artist's name is also the letter of the animal. So on the cover, we have a Picasso polar bear, so you can see how alliteration works there. Each of the pictures that you're going to see behind me are illustrated in the style of different artists throughout history, and then the poem teaches a little bit about the artist and the animal. So here's our first one. If Pablo Picasso went to the zoo, is this the kind of painting he'd do? Polar bear ladies, les demoiselles, I wonder what secrets they might just tell. Of the artist Picasso and his way of painting, breaking down shapes, there is no mistaking this style called Cubism, was what he created. A new way of painting. At first it was hated. People complained that's not how it looks. But Pablo now loved his pictures fill books. So this was a painting I did for the book, and then I had a bunch of other art teacher friends of mine help illustrate for other artists. This one is by Amanda Miller, who did a painting in the style of Roy Lichtenstein. And it's a leopard. There's that alliteration, Liechtenstein leopard. And here's the poem. If Roy Lichtenstein went to the zoo, is this the kind of painting he'd do? The leopard is perched up high in a tree, kind of cartoony, I think you will see. Pop is the style of this artist's work. It isn't by chance or some kind of quirk. Roy liked to use those dots called Ben-Day, inspired by comics he read on Sunday. To make his art graphic and make it stand out, outlines and color is what it's about. And then in my book, next to each animal, there's a little leaf. This one is light green, and that tells you that the animal is endangered. A bright green leaf means the animal's doing fine, and brown means it's extinct. Here's another painting I did in the book, and it's a Pollock pig. If Jackson Pollock went to the zoo, is this the kind of painting he'd do? When he would paint, he'd splash and he'd dribble, all over the canvas and not just a little, recording his actions as he would move, almost like dancing to his kind of groove. He didn't paint things, just splashed really big, but if he'd paint a creature, it might be this pig. Both may be messy, but this looks so sweet. Art doesn't always have to be neat. Our next image was printed by Lizzie Wardell, and it's of a Elizabeth Catlett cougar. Catlett cougar is our alliteration. If Elizabeth Catlett went to the zoo, is this the kind of print she would do? This woman of color, born in the U.S., studied in Mexico and learned to express her feelings and thoughts all through her art, portraits and printing, expressing her heart. Printers carve blocks with a sharp knife, ink on its surface to bring art to life. Here is a cougar in black and in white, done in her style. Does it give you a fright? I hope not. The next one was done by my friend Holly Bess Kincaid, another art teacher. And this one is about Salvador Dali, and the animal is a dodo. Dodos are extinct, so we have a brown leaf in the book. If Salvador Dali went to the zoo, is this the kind of painting he'd do? The clocks are all melting, it looks so absurd, and look at that creature, a weird kind of bird. Surreal was his style, as if in a dream, a dodo bird here with a time as a theme. Dodos were friendly, too friendly, I think, for now they're all gone and completely extinct. Eaten by sailors and then by their crew, the last one was seen in 1662. Our next image was done by Donald Peters, and it's a ceramic vessel in the style of Iris Nepinio. She was a Native American artist and did a picture of a newt. So if Iris Nepinio went to the zoo, is this the kind of vessel she'd do? Tewa her tribe and Hopi her home, her people were forced to move and to roam. Native American land of her birth, she made all her art from our Mother Earth. Clay that was dug from the ground with her hands turned into art to honor her lands. Here in her style we see a small newt, hardened in fire and pulled from the soot. Here's another ceramic piece by a different artist. This one's all black, and it's a moth. This one is by Maria Martinez. So Martinez moth is our alliteration. If Maria Martinez went to the zoo, is this the kind of vessel she'd do? Known for ceramics made from raw clay, doing her work in the Pueblo-style way. From the south and the west, near Santa Fe, she loved to make pottery every day. Native American used lots of black, some of them shiny and some were left flat. Here is a moth upon a small vase, made so careful, with clay do not race. Our last image is in the style of Romare Bearden, and it's a Bearden bald eagle. This one was done by Elizabeth Osborne, another friend of mine and an art teacher. If Romare Bearden went to the zoo, is this the kind of collage he would do? He was a soldier in World War II and studied in Paris, where he learned to do art that depicted American life for people of color and of their strife. Here a bald eagle done like he might, symbol of peace and doing what's right. Hand over hand, helping each other, color ignored, just sister and brother. Well, I hope you liked these. There are many, many more in my.
So I'm going to go to the next one, which I mentioned, the If Picasso Went to the Sea, because that's the sea creatures. And while we're doing this, if you have a little notepad next to you, think about some concrete ways this could be used in a lesson. Now, I've got a whole bunch I printed out here that I'm going to share with you, some other connections that can be made with stuff like this, doing emulations. But I want to see feedback from you guys as you listen. Is there, oh, I could do this, I could see this happening. And it doesn't have to just be from the art point of view. It could also be from the literacy point of view, writing, comparing, contrasting, all that kind of stuff. So we'll do the next one.
Hi, my name is Eric Gibbons, and I'm an artist, teacher, and author, and this is my book, If Picasso Went to the Sea. I worked on this with about 40 other art teachers from all over the world. Each art teacher took an artist from history and combined that with an animal to create an illustration that helps teach about the artist, but also about the animal. We used a technique called alliteration, where we take the name of the artist and the name of the animal and put them together. So the cover is a Picasso porpoise. All the animals will be alliterations of the artists in this book. So I'll read the first one to you here. This is a painting that I did in the style of Picasso, and actually it's a painting and a collage, so it's kind of a mix. If Pablo Picasso went to the sea, is this the painting that he'd make for me? This ain't no fish, it's called a porpoise. Cousin to dolphins, they all sing in chorus. Social by nature, they swim with their friends. Migrating with fish, the fun never ends. This picture you see is called a collage. Cutting and pasting, it is no mirage. Pablo and Brock invented this style. We hope that this mammal does bring you a smile. Now, in the bottom of each image in the book, I have a little seashell, and the color of the seashell tells you if the animal is thriving, threatened, endangered, or extinct. This one has two different colors, so some porpoises are threatened and some are endangered. This next painting is by Chris Hodge, an art teacher friend of mine, and it's in the style of Edward Hopper. If Edward Hopper went to the sea, is this the painting he'd make for me? He was a painter and printmaker too. He painted all things with a realist view. H is for horseshoe crab and also for hopper. Made into night watch, it's done very proper. This crab is so special, a living fossil, not scary at all. He is very docile. Go to the beach, perhaps you will see him, or visit a natural history museum. This next image is a sculpture, and it's by Lorraine Poling. She did it in the style of Louise Nevelson. If Louise Nevelson went to the sea, is this the sculpture that she'd make for me? Ukrainian artist, sculpted with wood, scraps that she found in boxes and glued. Can you see the narwhals, Jim, June, and Ned? They've screws for their horns and wood for their head. The horn on a narwhal is really a tusk. They hunt for cod and from dawn until dusk. Narwhals are threatened and hunted by men. If we care for them, they will thrive again. If Henry Matisse went to the sea, is this the collage that he'd make for me? Henry could paint and draw and cut out all of the things he was thinking about. Art's more than paintin' to an artful creator. This manatee's made from cut and paste paper. They are endangered with so precious few. Isn't there something that we can do? Let's learn about them and their situation and find ways to help and promote conservation. This was a collage created by Julia Kenya, and obviously in the style of Henry Matisse. The next image is embroidery. It was done by Marie Elkin, but it's in the style of Mary May Morris. If Mary May Morris went to the sea, is this the embroidery she'd sew for me? A talented family, many reached fame. Her dad was real famous, Will Morris, his name. She loved to sew and make art with a pin, flowing designs with her unique spin. Man-o'-war jelly is made like she might. Dangerous creature, though they do not fight. They float on the water with a venomous tail and a bubble up top that acts like a sail. This is a piece of origami, and it's one that I folded for the book. But I looked up this artist's work and found the directions on how to fold his fish. So his name is Yoshikawa Akira. If Yoshikawa Akira went to the sea, is this the fish that he'd fold for me? This man of Japan made art from rice paper. He was the master, there was no one greater. He used origami to teach people math, but art had become the goal of his path. Upon this fish's head he carries a dangler, luring in prey. It's the job of the angler. Found deep below with pressure above, he has a face only a mother could love. You might recognize this famous artist or the style. That would be Frida Kahlo. This one was done by Viviana Acuna Francisco. She's an art teacher as well. If Frida Kahlo went to the sea, is this the painting she'd make for me? This Mexican lady painted her face, dreamlike and haunting, a surreal space. The krill on her shoulders give her a kiss, while she stares ahead as if nothing's amiss. Krill are quite tiny, crustaceans, you know, food for the whales away deep below, and krill eat the plankton, smaller than sand. The circle of life is ever so grand. The last image is another sculpture. This one is by Marie Elson, and it's in the style of Marisol Escobar. If Marisol Escobar went to the sea, is this the sculpture she'd make for me? Some artists so famous are known by one name. Picasso, Matisse, Marisol had such fame. This Latin lady assembled her art. Wood and some patterns and paint were her start. She'd put them together like this marlin fish to make it pop art, for that was her wish. Marlins can swim as fast as a car, hunters like sharks, but faster by far. I hope you enjoyed that. We have lots more in the book, and I have that in.
Cool. All right. Ooh, got some more people popping in. Now I saw we had something. I want to make sure I check the chat if there was anything that I missed. Okay.
I got so interested in listening, I didn't even look.
I'm glad someone thought that my reading was soothing. That's good. Cool. All right. Yeah, so I wanted to see what were some ideas off the top of your heads. And you could put in the comments or just unmute. What are some ways you could see something like this working in a classroom setting? You know, in what way could you use something like this? Because I designed it for teachers, at least, you know, the zoo and the sea book. And there's one more I'll share in a moment. Someone mentioned something about the kids zone. That would be idea to compare and contrast works.
Shalita put a comment.
Yeah, we did surrealism trees for Christmas. Next year, I could see assign a different artist tree depending on the class that they are in. For example, Art 1, Surrealism, Art 2, Kandinsky, Gauguin, and so forth. Yeah, yeah. And even I've seen where, you know, you can have a whole list of artists and then the kids cross one off or put their name next to it, so you get a different tree, and then they have to do a little research on their phone or their Chromebook, whatever is available. So you might end up getting, you know, a whole forest of Christmas trees that are all different and unique, and that might be interesting. And then the students can get up and talk about their tree and make those visual connections, and then you're learning about lots of things at the same time. Identifying styles of artists and comparing the book's pages with the works that they had made. Students can describe how one makes their own unique style. Absolutely. Susan and I do a project where students have to research an endangered species and create a work of them. I think this would be much more interesting. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. And the alliteration was a way for us to, make those extra, connections to literacy for our little ones. But I've found high school students like these books too, because they're learning a little tidbit about the artist. And sometimes I've had them go off and do a little bit more research and find a few more facts, or try and turn those facts into a poem, like write a different poem for the artwork. That can be, a fun thing to do there. Let's see if there's any others there. So I'll make sure I didn't miss a comment. So, and I'll put a link in the chat for you guys. Let me go pull that now. Let's see. There is control copy. So this is the playlist that I'm sharing these from. Those are me reading from the books. And there'll be one more that I'm going to share with you in a little bit. And then Control X. These are, the next link is, and I'll type this in here. These are packets. These are packets that can be downloaded. They can be used with the videos, so you don't have to buy anything. That's not why I'm here. But those packets allow you to print these off. They're PDFs of little lessons that can be done as either a one-day lesson or left as a sub-plan, or I have my early finishers bin. So if someone finishes early, they can go grab something so they could be meaningfully occupied while others are working on a current project. But I'll share with you, I printed out one of the packets, and they're similar because the zoo book and the sea book, they're both animals. So, the packets are similar. Like you print one, you've really printed both. So these were some lessons that I've done with my students. So one was called Creative Writing from the zoo book or the sea book. Many of the illustrations in the book look like they could be part of a larger story. So pick one from the book and write a story that would go with it. You don't have to rhyme like I did. Just make up your own story that includes the animal, the artist or both. So if you pretended that the image was no longer, like my Picasso polar bears, what's the story about these 5 polar bears, so then they could create a story based on that as the illustration. The endangered species in the book has a code to let you know if the animal is thriving, threatened, endangered, or extinct. Zoos all over the world help save animals for extinction. Sadly, though, some animals are gone from the wild and only exist in zoos. Someday we hope these animals can be returned to the wild, but for now, zoos keep them alive. List all of the animals you can think of that might be in a zoo, and then find out if they're thriving, threatened, endangered, or extinct. So there's a list. They could write down 20 animals that they can try and think of that they might see in a zoo, and then they can research on their own. And then what can you create to bring attention to the issue of endangered animals? So then they can create their own artwork, maybe a poster, something along those lines to help bring attention to the issue. A second version of this is the book has codes to let you know if the animals are thriving, threatened, endangered, or extinct. Some animals, like egrets, have subspecies, just like dogs. There could be many kinds of dogs, like poodles, Labradors, Dalmatians. Find animals that have more than one leaf and explore what subspecies face the highest risks or are extinct. So in the book, sometimes there are more than one leaf or more than one shell. So like for dolphins, there are many types of dolphins. So some of them are green, some of them are yellow for being threatened. So they could start to look up and find out, oh, there's more than one kind of dolphin. Maybe they didn't know there's only one kind they thought of. Or penguins, there are many, many different kinds of penguins. Find out a little bit more. What threatens the animal? If it's extinct, when did it happen and why? And what should we know about them? Another one, compare and contrast. And that was already mentioned in the comments. Ooh, let me see. Let me go to the comments real quick. One time. This way to search through your blog. Oh. Okay, so searching through the blog, little side note, just type in my blog name, artedguru.com, and then space, and then what you want to find. So if you want to find assessments, you type in artedguru.com, space assessments, it'll come right up. That's how I find stuff on my own blog. I didn't want to pay for the extra feature of the search box because that's what it's doing for you anyway. And I don't have the income yet to do that. So compare and contrast. So taking one of the famous works and then finding a real work by that artist, like the polar bears, and then find Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, and then do a compare and contrast, like what's similar and what's different, and maybe even identifying what is something that was done in the picture that the famous artist would not do. That could be kind of interesting. A writing extension that we found helpful, and we talked about this in the literacy one, was finding a famous quote. So if you're talking about the artwork, we're talking about the animal, we can also find famous quotes by the artist and then exploring what does that mean. We talked about that last time. And then vocabulary extensions. So I didn't dumb down the vocabulary in the poetry. So there might be words that students would not be familiar with, particularly in the lower level grades. So we can start to identify the words they weren't sure, what does that mean? And then they can go ahead and find definitions and explore the language a little bit deeper. The poetry extension, after you create your animal, try to write a poem about it. So students could pick their own animal and do a painting in the style of an artist, or they could do it in their own style. And then they would create their own poem to go along with it. And, they can make it rhyming. It doesn't have to be rhyming. I used "Twas the Night Before Christmas" as sort of my starting point, and it seemed to work for me, but there are lots of different ones. And then in the packet, there's a page where, they could pick an artist, pick an animal, and then do a drawing of it, and try and do a poem on the back. And then that's that emulation, because I printed it twice. So if Picasso went to the zoo, and this is kind of what I mentioned before with one of the other teachers, their suggestions about the tree. So I have a list of lots of dead artists, and then the kids would put their initial next to it. So I don't end up with, 20 Picasso trees. I want to see some variety, and that forces them to do a little bit of research. Now, a lot of kids will jump right to the name that they know, and that means Dali's going to be picked right away and Picasso is going to be picked right away. But sometimes I cross off names before that because I want them to dig a little bit deeper, so they can have a list of artists and then go through that. And technically, they don't have to be dead. I picked dead artists for the book because dead artists don't sue you, and I wanted it to be about art history. We actually had one. It wasn't an issue, but somebody wanted to do the blue dog, and that artist had just passed away the year that we were writing that book. So we contacted the estate, the son of the artist gave us permission, though we didn't technically need it. We wanted to make sure we weren't going to get sued for doing an emulation, and his father had just passed, so we wanted to be, thoughtful about that. So the only stipulation was that he didn't want that artwork featured in like a magazine or a video or something. It could be within the book, but we couldn't use it as a mode of making sales, like making money off of his father's death. So that I agreed to, and we were totally cool with that. So that way we could have someone who is almost contemporary, so to speak. But your list does not have to be deceased artists, because I don't think artists are going to sue your students for doing something. So you could have someone like a Janet Fish or somebody who is, still alive. I think that might be a fun way to do it. Actually, if you're exploring contemporary artists, why not? You know, you could do something, and you know, how would Banksy, you know, do an animal? That would be wonderful, you know, a Banksy bear or whatever. So that would be a nice way to kind of tie in contemporary artists, because sometimes that's a little harder to do sometimes in the art classroom. It's easy to go to the classics, but sometimes we want them to know what's going on in the contemporary world. Exploring the artist. So of course, digging deeper. So I've got like a little handout where they can kind of fill in the blank. You know, what was the name of the artist of the style you like the best, year of their birth, when did they die, where did they grow up, what major event happened in their lifetime, because that will often influence their work. What is it about their art that you liked? What makes their art special or unique or different from other artists? What is the name of a real artwork they made? Try to pick a famous one. What kind of art did they make? Was it painting, drawing, sculpture? What is something you like to draw? Try to draw something you said in the previous one, but do it in the style of the artist that you liked. And these are the vacation ones. And then my taxes. I don't know why my taxes are in that pile. Okay, it's that time. Tis the season, I guess. So let me take any questions on that part. Did anything, any feedback, ideas? I want to pause to make sure I'm not running over people. Okay. All right. So the last one I want to share with you, and then what we'll do is we're going to have some time to create, write, whatever, is the If Picasso Went on Vacation. And this is the final book in the series. We did 4. We might do a 5th, but I'm not there yet. How many books have you done to date? Well, in this series, there's 4 books of my own, about 50 or 60. Not all of them make money. There's one I wrote about, you know, I did a road trip from New Jersey to California and back, and I wrote about it. We were able to write off the whole trip because I wrote a book about it, and it was a business thing, but we only sell 1 a year. So, you know, there's that. But then, you know, the other books we do well on it. So yeah, I just like when I had a gallery, you know, I had an old firehouse that I ran an art gallery out of. And because I was going to pay the mortgage, whether I was going to sell art or not, I was able to have the ability to show art that I didn't think would sell, but I thought was really cool. And the same thing with the books. I don't let the idea of will it sell stop me from writing the book. And I did want to, maybe there's a good transition time to kind of mention this. So if any of you have ever had an idea for a book that you wanted to do or collaborate on, you can do it for free and get paid for it. So this is not a big secret, but some people just don't know it's available. But there's Amazon has this thing called KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, and you just open up an account. And if you can write in Microsoft Word or Google Docs or whatever, as long as you can save it to a PDF file, you can upload it and have a book. And if you're artistic enough to create a cover as well and upload that, you can have that, or you can use their InDesign covers, which are kind of boring, but they work. But yeah, that's how I do 90% of what I do. Now, the If Picasso books are traditionally printed. I had a printer in Canada print them, and they shipped me, I think we still have 12,000 books behind me in a room. So I have to ship them off to Amazon to do that. But that's unusual. With print on demand, the idea is that somebody sees your book, they buy it, and then Amazon prints it at that moment, binds it at that moment, and ships it at that moment. So there's no, you know, 10,000 books they have to go and pull from. So that's called print on demand. And that's what I do for most of my books. The one that sells the best is my art students workbook. I probably, I don't know, maybe $5,000 a year off of that one book. But I don't store that here. That's just, somebody buys it, they print it and they sell it. But sometimes a school district will buy it. That's why I can, do okay with that. But if you have an idea for a children's book, as long as you can upload it, you'll have a soft cover book, and then they join it with your bank account. And then it goes, every time somebody buys it, Amazon just electronically deposits into your account. So it's not magic. But for color books, it's a little bit more challenging, which is why I printed them traditionally, because you can buy 5,000 of a book and you get them at $3 a piece. And then when you sell them, you're making a profit. When you print on demand color books, it's more expensive. So the profit margin is much thinner. So I would never tell somebody to print, 5,000 books unless you're sure you can sell them. So the print on demand model is easy because there's no risk involved in it. There is risk with my If Picasso books, but they sell enough that I know by the time I retire, they'll be gone and I won't have more books in my closet. So anyway, I hope that answers that question in a long way and maybe gives you some ideas. So I did want to talk about that. It's easy to do, but it's Kindle, print on demand. You can get a free account and you can publish. And that Christmas book was really, I tried to do it myself and I got other people to help me and they all got a free copy. I put their contact information in the book. So if somebody liked their art and wanted to buy a print, they could. And we were all happy, for the collaboration. So anyway, thank you, Tanya, appreciate it. So the next one I want to share, this will be the last one, and then we'll move on to kind of our activity, is If Picasso Went on Vacation. And this was one I struggled with because I had the idea and I didn't know how to make it work, but after doing these other books, we kind of figured it out. So I use If Picasso because he's kind of a catch-all for art. It's not that I'm in love with Picasso, it's just everybody knows what that name means. You say Picasso, it means art. You don't jump right away to him being a deplorable human being. We know he's got a history, but it's really about, art. So it became kind of my catch-all is just sort of a topic. And then, the books, as you see, are including lots of different kinds of artists and styles. So I had this idea of geography. I love to travel. I think kids need to know more about that. I wanted to have international locations, but I also wanted to incorporate language in a way that wouldn't be overwhelming because, when I lived in Japan for a year and did my fine art studies there as a college exchange student. So I learned some Japanese and my life changed because of that, because you got to see the United States from another country's point of view, which I found fascinating. And then I lived in the Middle East in Egypt for 2 years, taught there, seeing the world through a Middle Eastern point of view, definitely very interesting and eye-opening. And I think, every child should have that experience, or every person should have that experience of living abroad, and seeing the world through different eyes for many reasons. So finally, we were able to kind of make this happen in that book that I'm going to share with you now, just a few of the readings, and we'll talk again. There we go.
Hi, my name is Eric Gibbons, and I'm an artist, teacher, and author. And this is my book, If Picasso Went on Vacation. I wrote this with the help of 50 other art teachers who illustrated portions of this book. Each of us art teachers took an artist from history and did a painting or drawing or sculpture of a famous place around the world. Then I went in and wrote some poems for each one to teach about the artist, to teach about the place, and a little bit of the language from each of these places. I'm going to share some of this with you right now. This first image I painted in the style of Pablo Picasso. If Pablo Picasso went on vacation, could this be a painting of his destination? Artist and cubist, shapes he would shatter, making this world look so much flatter. City of light, where romances flower, all can look up and see Eiffel's tower. Through war and through peace, Paris has stood, a mecca for artists and famous French food. If you go there to visit someday, learn a few words so you can say. Oui is for yes, and non is for no. Bonjour is the way the French say hello. And in the book, after each poem, I have a little globe with a little red spot that tells you where in the world that place is. Let's go to the next one. This is a painting in the style of Grant Wood by Amber Forgay. She's another art teacher. If Grant Wood went on vacation, could this be a painting of his destination? He liked to paint people and to paint places, showing their home, including their faces. Regional artists painted so real, like in this sample, we get the feel of people who lived near Dar el-Hajar, a palace in Yemen, a long way by car. If you go there to visit someday, learn a few words the Arabic way. Na'am is yes, and kala is no. Marhaban is the way to say hello. The next painting is by Christa Belloc in the style of Gustav Klimt. This is Easter Island. If Gustav Klimt went on vacation, could this be a painting of his destination? Klimt painted patterns on top of gold. The contrast of warm and cool colors is bold. These the Moai, the guard Easter Island, stony protectors from beach to the highland. The island belongs to the country of Chile. Volcanoes there made it really quite hilly. If you go there to visit someday, learn a few words the Rapa Nui way. EE for yes and Ina for no. Lorana is a native hello. This next image is actually a paper cutout or a collage. This one is by Caitlin Kilcommons in the style of Lottie Redinger. If Lottie Redinger went on vacation, could this be a collage of her destination? She animated long before Disney, scenes from cut paper, fantastical whimsy. These cliffs of Moher, land of the Irish, done in her way in layers so stylish. Famous in film, seen in the movies, cliffs on Atlantic are Celtic beauties. If you go there to visit someday, learn a few words, so here's how you say. Giachlich is Gaelic to say hello, but they have no words for yes or for no. This is a painting by Rachel Wintenberg in the style of Aaron Douglas. If Aaron Douglas went on vacation, could this be a painting of his destination? Born in Topeka, moved to New York, known for his Harlem Renaissance work. This in his style, the Great Zimbabwe. Now it's a relic, a mystery today. Though there's no info written on page, we know natives built it in the Iron Age. If you go there to visit someday, learn a few words the Zimbabwe way. Hongo for yes and Kwete for no. Mohoro in Shona, a friendly hello. This one is a quilt. It was quilted by Nisha Macbeth in the style of Sarah Mary Taylor. If Sarah Mary Taylor went on vacation, could this be a quilt of her destination? Born in the South, descended from slaves, her quilts brought her fame. Art often saves. Much of her work included hands. In her style is one in the sands of a Uruguay beach, a partial hand sculpture, a valued landmark of the artistic culture. If you go there to visit someday, learn a few words, so here's how you say. Sí is for yes, no is still no. Hola in Spanish, a friendly hello. This next painting is in the style of Tamara de Lempicka, and it's by Amanda Roth, another art teacher. If Tamara de Lempicka went on vacation, could this be a painting of her destination? Art Deco is the style she used, where art and decor are visually fused. Here in her style is a giant tower. Big Ben is the bell that rings every hour. Elizabeth's Tower is the official name, London its home and center of fame. If you go there to visit someday, learn a few words the Englishman's way. I is for yes, and nay is for no, and hiya in London means to say hello. This last image is in the style of Joan Mitchell, and it was painted by Amanda Roth. If Joan Mitchell went on vacation, could this be a painting of her destination? Female expressionist, rare for her day, she pushed the boundaries with her unique way. This in her style, the Falls of Niagara, once home to Mohawk and Onondaga. Carved by the glaciers so long ago, this Canadian landmark goes with the flow. If you go there to visit someday, some there speak French the Canadian way. Oui is for yes, and non is for no. Bonjour is the way that they say hello. I hope you've enjoyed these selections from my book. There are plenty more inside.
When Picasso met Matisse. Yep, my students love that one. Yep, I remember that book as well. Cool. So I'm going to move my seat around for the next part. We have a different scene behind me here. Hold on a second. There we go. And you'll see why over my shoulder there. Okay. That's the Picasso polar bears. Had written in there for some extended learning activities that were different from the other two was to explore the written language. So in English, we write from left to right. It seems so natural to us, but there are many languages that write from right to left, like Hebrew, Arabic, and some Asian languages. Write about your day so far in 5 or more sentences, but write it backwards. It can be a fun little activity. What other languages write from right to left, and what might be the advantages of writing from right to left? And then if Picasso, language hunt. In the United States, only Native Americans are actually from this area. Everyone else is an immigrant from another country traveling here by foot, boat, plane, train, or car. Our book explores many languages from around the world. What languages may have been spoken by your ancestors? You may need to ask your parents if your family was originally German, Irish, Chinese, etc. Some families come from many backgrounds. Though we live in the United States, what is your cultural background? Just pick one. My family immigrated to the United States from blank. Our cultural languages would have been blank. How do you say yes, no, and hello in those languages? And then do your classmates speak other languages from other cultural backgrounds? List the languages and how you would say yes, no, and hello in that language. So then they can kind of share their information with each other. And another writing extension, that one I already shared. And then, yeah, comparing and contrasting, we already talked about that one, another one. So what I wanted to do for our activity, because we're at the 1 hour, so we've got a little half-hour extra add-on for those who wanted to, hang out with us, is to try and do a little alliterative sketch. Pick a famous artist that you like, and either an animal, a sea creature, or an international location. If you can sketch that out, that might emulate their style a little bit, and then share that. Or if you would rather write, maybe you can do a poem that teaches about Picasso Cubism through the polar bears. So I wrote one poem that was definitely not the only poem that could have been written about that subject, but I thought that might be a fun way to kind of end our session here. And then I also wanted to make my time available if you had any questions about publishing or anything even beyond that, I can answer in the comments or with you here. You're welcome to use my time that you have so graciously given me. And then if in the future, any of you might be interested in collaborating on a project, just stay in touch with me through Facebook. There's a link on my artedguru.com blog, and you just click on the link for Facebook, and you can join my little Facebook group, and then you'll get updates on stuff and when I have books out. I'm working on, there it is. I'm still editing. We've got sort of my pedagogy book I'm working on for art education. So we're on our last edit. I have a copy and an English teacher does too. So we're trying to get rid of all of my mistakes. So Jackie, for you, I'm going to put you on the spot. Which of the books did you feel like, oh, that was interesting? Like which one were you gravitated towards, do you think?
Well, all of them. I mean, seriously, I keep thinking, oh, how, if I were a student, because I'm no artist, so if I were a student, I would have been, I don't care what grade, excited to think like, oh, okay, I can sort of do my own thing, but in the style of, I always like to do that with writing. But I'm most interested in the sea creatures. I keep thinking of all, I mean, I think there's something really interesting. And, you talked about the narwhal, I think, oh yeah, there's some really cool things we can do with that. So I love that whole If Picasso series, but I like to see, also, by the way, the poem, even though similar, the cadence and all that, it is good. I mean, all along the way, that really works. By the way, Robin sent me a message. I think she meant to send to everybody or to you, but she did have to leave a little early. She said, I'm aggravated I had to leave. Just want to say thank you for being so forthcoming to share so much with us. She'll be keeping in touch.
Excellent, thank you. Oh, we got a little poem coming through, Ty.
Hi, that's taking us
awesome.
down a road.
Yeah. Oh, Shalita, thank you.
That's what I was just thinking, Shalita.
Yeah, if you've not been in it before, you have to answer 3 questions, and that way I know you're not a spammer or you're really in the arts as an educator. I learned how to do that because we got, I don't know, it was really weird for a while. But it's also a good resource for, if you want direct questions and answers with me, I can, help you out. We have some really, really good people in there who have also helped with some of my books. Rachel Wintenberg is another amazing art educator. And she has some blog stuff linked in there. She works with a much more urban population and really has the nitty gritty on how to kind of deal with that. So if anybody, works with a very urban sort of setting and faces a lot of challenges, Rachel Wintenberg has been a wonderful resource in kind of helping people acclimate to that. She's lived through some real nightmares and has come out a much wiser person for it, and has been sharing her wisdom with a lot of people. All right, so Tony, I'm going to ask, what are you working on?
I am not an artist. I'm a music person. I can't draw a stick figure. But I remember my favorite book that you just shared was about the vacations, about the travel.
Okay.
And I remember one of my favorite places was on St. John's in the Caribbean.
Oh yeah.
I can't draw, but I was on a tour and there was a beach that was kind of secluded, and it had just kind of, you could just barely see, there were bushes and trees and all that. This is awful. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, there's bushes on each side, and there was the beach, and then you had this beautiful, almost well, it was a sea blue, it was different shades of blue water, and it was just absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah.
So that's just where I would like to be right now.
I hear you. We were in Jamaica last week on a cruise. So, yeah,
Oh,
and St.
love
John's,
it.
St. Martin, and all that stuff. The couple years previous, yeah. And it might be fun with the music kids to, even if they, created illustrations of music, almost like creating album covers or something like that. How do you translate the music into the visual? I think can be, really fun, even if it's just a sub plan. Whatever it is you're working on. Hey, let's create the album cover for that.
That's a great idea. I think I'd like to tie this travel idea into the cultural music, and then have them tie in the artwork with that too. I'm just kind of thinking through it right now.
Yeah, it might be neat if they had, pick from a hat, a different country, and then they kind of do little presentations, musical presentations of the music of that particular area, and find out if two areas are close to each other, are there similarities, and the further apart, are they that much more different? It might be.
We could also compare the art of the two, see if there's any correlation there. So
yeah, and we do that with art history a bit too, because you can hear of Renaissance art and Renaissance music, neoclassical art, neoclassical music. There are ties that can be pulled together. I think even with Baroque, Rococo, all of that stuff. It's kind of interesting to make those connections, visual and musical.
Thanks, sir.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to pick on Shalita next. What you doing, Shalita? We'll have to unmute a second. Oh, Kandinsky jellyfish, awesome. Oh, okay. Don't worry about it. Cool. And then you could come up with a poem if you needed to for your Kandinsky jellyfish. That's a cool animal to do with him. Sandra, I thought I had to incorporate music, research culture, country, time period, and maybe set the poems to music and that style. Absolutely. It might even be fun to do the if you take music that doesn't have words to it and come up with the words to it. Like, what would Beethoven's Fifth Symphony sound like with words? Da, 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 da. What are the words that could be there? That would be so interesting. And how do you capture the mood? And then maybe even to throw it on its head, if it feels doom and gloom, make it into something that's happy, flip the narrative on it, and da, 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 that it's, I'm so happy.
I'm sure you're working on a poem, but I have absolutely zero knowledge about Picasso or Cubism or most of these artists. I would have to do a whole lot more research, but yeah, writing the poetry as opposed to the artwork, that's not me, but yeah. Oh, it's neat.
Okay, cool. Let's see. Forgot the alliteration. That's okay if you don't do the alliteration. We're just kind of having some fun here. Like using the instrumental music for that. It's a huge show tomorrow. I'm trying to tell. No, I got you, Jamie. How about Malaya? Can I put you on the spot? What are you up to?
Okay, I'm on my phone, so I've got to, let's see, here we go. I hope you can hear me. I have a Van Gogh fish. Can you see it?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of like the Starry Night, but as he parts the water, it just kind of swirls around. So
that's awesome. Very fun. Cool. All I know a lot of people have their video off, so I can't tell if what they're up to. Oh, there's Susan waving.
Anybody want to volunteer?
Susan, can I get you to share?
Well, I just kind of started and I restarted again too. I bought a Franz Mark mountain lion.
Oh, cool.
So I was using marker, which isn't my media.
That's fine. The guy with the blue horses, right?
That's right. Yeah. So we have a
Yep.
blue mountain lion instead.
Perfect. Yeah, I did a great unit with Franz Mark just last week with my kids. They have a lot of fun with that.
What do you do?
Well, we were talking about the emotional values of color, and his blue horses just really kind of sing to me. And then we had the kids kind of write about, what do you think why are the horses blue? And then they had to do some writing, and then we picked other colors and have them kind of analyze the work. So it's once they have that emotional color wheel down, then they start to apply it to other artwork, and they come up with some really sophisticated, sort of interpretations. So that was the one that we did, Franz Mark's horses.
Awesome. Yeah. I think the yellow cow might be kind of cool too, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Concluded, Tammy saying last week, we concluded our blues unit in high school humanities. The choice of writing a poem to one of our favorite blues tunes or draw what the tune looked like. Choices were right at 50-50. Thoroughly enjoyed this activity. Awesome. Shalita, quick question. I just thought of this. Someone added a comment to a tweet I made that I should remove Andy Warhol from my curriculum. Do you agree? I've noticed. For me personally, I mean, I've got Picasso's Demoiselles d'Avignon, and I share that with middle school and high school. And, I definitely give the caveat that he was a reprehensible person who would probably get canceled today. But, these are real people who have, positive and negative traits, just like we all do, some more than others. It's hard to, judge somebody. I mean, George Washington was a slave owner. We've got to put context to what's going on. We don't want to ignore those things, but I think to not talk about an artist because of, what contemporary people are saying is, not palatable or something, I think, does us a disservice. But you ultimately have to fall back on your supervisor and your job. So if your, boss tells you, well, you're not going to do Andy Warhol, then, then you got to decide, is that a hill you're going to die on or not? But until somebody with authority tells me otherwise, I'm going to make sure that I am including as much as I can for my students in the most appropriate way that I know how to deliver that. Yeah.
When Susan said the yellow cow, it made me think of Ogden Nash's poem. Actually, you know what I'm talking about? The cow is of the bovine ilk, one end moo, the other milk. And I thought, oh, you could do that with all the animals, that could be interesting too, in
Absolutely.
the style of Ogden Nash, yeah.
Yeah, and there are going to be a lot of artists through history that, Keith Haring, there's certain segments of his work that which I would not share with, elementary level students. They're not ready for it. And even some, maybe even for high school students, are not mature enough to kind of handle that. But to ignore him completely, kind of does a disservice. But again, you have to fall back on what your administration will back you up on and what they won't. Yeah. It's a good question, though. But I think it's got to be on an individual basis and how you feel, supported. Yeah. So we've got about 9 more minutes. Does anyone have any other questions about like publishing? Now that you've got a free resource here, I've done, 50, 60 books. I'm more than happy to kind of help you with that. And I guess Jackie put in the evaluation link there too. You guys want to take a moment to do that as well. But if you have any publishing questions, I'm more than happy to answer those as well. You could all write books. If you're making your own material, you could write a book. And it doesn't have to be long either. I took all of my assessments and put them in a book, and that's one of my better selling ones. All my quizzes and tests and one-day papers, all of that. Shalita, sure. Yeah, I could take a look and give you some feedback. Absolutely. But I would encourage people to definitely publish on their own, because then you keep all the profits. There are people who say, oh, we'll do this, that, and the other for you. But if you can write a document and save it as a PDF, you don't need anyone else to do that and take your money. I'm going to give you my blog and use that as a contact place, because that's going to have links to Facebook and my email and all that. So I'll put that in the chat here. So www.artedguru.com. And maybe I can use just this last few minutes to give you guys a little run through of some of the things on my blog that I think would be helpful as educators, because there's some free resources I put out there that I use like every week on my blog that's free for you to just kind of grab and use. So let me go there. artedguru.com, just go home. And then down the side here, I've got all of these quick links, and these are the ones that I use a bunch. But remote lessons, if God forbid there's another variant, you have to do that on your own. There's lessons there that you can do completely remotely. I have my projects separated by 3D and 2D. And if you just click on the regular one, there's just, 2D projects. But those are some quick ones that are out there. A lot of people are looking for sketchbook ideas. So I have a whole page on that. And these are also good as one-day lessons for like sub-plans. So these are all prompts that will give you diverse results. It's not like we're all going to draw the same thing. It's, draw the imaginary thing that lives under your bed. Everyone's going to see that and imagine something, kind of different. So those I have available, and those are in my I'm done bin for my students. I have some assessments here, but the videos page is one that I use a lot. Like, let's say, we finish, I'm grading stuff, and I just need to hold their attention for another 10 minutes. I have over 100 videos here that are free on YouTube. And these are great for just, you just click on it and here's a little art assignment video, the Daily Monster video. There's lots of stuff. So I have channels, I have historical videos, instructional videos, perspective help, inspirational art related videos, contemporary artists. So these are really short. You can have the kids take out a little index card or a sticky note and write 5 facts if they want to. So that's a page I use a lot. If you're looking for art quotes for literacy, I have a bunch on this page and that video that I shared with you. So there's a bunch of art quotes right there. That's good for literacy connections. And sub-plans, I have a bunch of one-day sub-plans. Oh, art cartoons are fun. I think I shared this with you on the literacy day. But these are fun ones for, just having it on my projection as the kids are walking in. And then we can talk for a minute about it, kind of breaking down the cartoons. But they're right on my blog. I've got, I think there's enough for one a day for a school year. So we can have some fun. So I have lots of stuff on my blog that's just free for you to like steal or use in any way you see fit. So
Or you could say, My friend Eric made this.
There you go. Absolutely. We're all friends. Cool. Did anyone do a sketch they can share with us? Anyone else? We saw the jellyfish and a few others. All right. And I do appreciate you guys doing the evaluation link. They've been sharing some of the positive comments with me, and that helps me know what I'm doing right, what I'm doing well. I revamped my literacy chat with you guys, and I feel like it was much more successful with your group. So that was really helpful. And I'm trying to transition into that retirement area where I can do this and help more teachers across the country. So I'm hoping to do this more full-time as I exit teaching in the classroom. I want to help other educators across the country. So your feedback is very helpful to me to make sure I'm, staying relevant and helpful and all that kind of stuff. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. And if you guys have questions after this, even on publishing or whatever, feel free to go to my blog and use that contact link. I'm more than happy to, answer questions and stuff. It's been really nice getting to know y'all in Kentucky. I got to visit again.
Yes, same here. We hope to see you again soon and in the future. That'll be
maybe when this whole COVID thing's over, we could do an in real life.
person. Yes. That'd be fantastic. And we'll take you somewhere really nice to eat. Well, does anyone else have any further questions? You're getting a lot of thank yous and appreciation in the chat room.
Well, thank you back. I appreciate it.